So I've got three different stories for you today. Number one, the UFC to re-sign Muhammad Mokaev. Number two, the UFC's $375 million settlement approved. And number three, Makhachev versus Tsarukyan rematch set for UFC 311. So let's get into it. So last week there was a lot of speculation about the UFC potentially re-signing Muhammad Mokaev, and he actually came out in an interview with MMA Junkie and revealed that the UFC was in fact going to re-sign him to the promotion. Now in a recent interview he reiterated on his point again and claimed that the UFC is going to re-sign him, and he actually revealed a conversation between him and Hunter Campbell, and according to Mokaev, Hunter Campbell promised him that after one or two more fights outside of the UFC will re-sign him to the promotion.
Что вообще менеджеры тебе говорят? Насколько реально возвращение? Потому что, все тебя там хотели видеть в UFC, потом случилась такая ситуация, и теперь не понимают вообще, какой твой статус.
Знаешь, как я с Хантером общался? Вы знаете, кто Хантер? Да, это через пару дней после анонсирования, то, что мне не продлевают контракт. Он мне сказал, просто нужно провести 1-2 боя вне организации, и мы тебя переподпишем. Вот. Как я знаю, он мужчина своего слова. Будем ждать.
So as he said there, Hunter Campbell promised him that with one or two more fights outside of the organization, Hunter Campbell will resubscribe him, will re-sign him to the UFC. Now, my opinion on this situation is Mokaev should have never been released from the UFC in the first place. He's a very talented fighter. Is a big star in the Muslim world, he's a future UFC champion, so to me it made absolutely no sense to release him in the first place. Now Dana White did say that Mokaev had a bad relationship behind the scenes with the UFC brass and UFC staff, but there's a ton of fighters in the UFC who've done way worse than Muhammad Mokaev and they're still in the UFC. Look at John Jones, let's not talk about what he's done. Look at Conor McGregor, all the stuff that he's done. Amir Al-Bazzi, who just headlined the UFC last weekend, allegedly pulled the gun out on Muhammad Mokaev and he's still signed to the UFC. So in terms of behavior and things that go on behind the scenes, I think this is completely irrelevant. So in my opinion, the UFC should re-sign Mokaev ASAP because he is a future champion, he is a rising star, he is very talented, and we need people like him in the UFC to keep people interested and to cause controversy and to actually put an exciting fight, which he can actually do. So for the next story, a judge has approved the UFC's $375 million class action settlement. So recently, Eric McGracken, a law journalist, actually came out and confirmed that a judge has approved the UFC's $375 million class action settlement. So just to give some clarity, the case has been given a preliminary approval, which means a first answer or decision, but not a final one. So essentially, the judge has approved the UFC's offer, but there's just a few legal obligations that have to be completed before it gets the final stamp of approval. Now, Eric McGracken posted a video on Twitter confirming that any fighter that was signed to the UFC between 2010 and June 2017 are eligible for a piece of this $375 million. And in this video, it gives actual steps of how these fighters can claim their piece of this $375 million.
UFC fighters, here's how you claim your money in the UFC class action lawsuit. So as you may have heard, a $375 million settlement has received preliminary approval from the court. Fighters between December 2010 all the way through June 2017 are caught up in this class. So if you competed in the UFC during that period, you're probably eligible to receive money. Here's how you claim your money. Go to UFCclassaction.com, click the Claim Your Money button, and that'll take you to a link where you just fill out your personal information. That personal information is going to go to Rob Macy. That's the attorney that started this lawsuit and is still involved with this lawsuit. Once Rob has your information, he's going to keep you updated about how and when you can claim your money. And the reason why I say that is the case has preliminary approval, but still needs final approval. Once that final approval is in place, you're going to be told exactly how you can claim your money. So go to UFCclassaction.com, fill out your information. And by the way, you don't have to hire a lawyer. You don't have to hire somebody to help you claim your money. The money you're getting is already going to have legal fees taken off of it. Lawyers have worked hard for 10 years on this case. So there's going to be court-approved legal fees already paid. Don't hire somebody else. Don't let somebody vulture out a piece of your hard-earned money. Go to UFCclassaction.com, register, then you'll get good information about how to claim your money.
So I think this is great news, obviously, for UFC fighters from past and present. $375 million is a significant amount of money, and it will change a lot of fighters' lives, and it will help a lot of UFC fighters. So if you are a UFC fighter, go to UFCclassaction.com and claim your piece of that $375 million. And for the final story, the rematch between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan is official for UFC 311 on January 18th. Now, the Nurmagomedov MMA school, the official school of Igor's MMA and Team Nurmagomedov, posted this poster last night confirming that UFC 311, January 18, Los Angeles, Islam Makhachev against Arman Tsarukyan. So the rematch is official, and in terms of title fights, this is one of the most elite, high-level title fights we've seen in quite some time in the lightweight division. Now, in a recent documentary with Red Corner MMA, Arman Tsarukyan reacted to the fight being booked and reacted to Khabib Nurmagomedov potentially being in the corner of Islam Makhachev and the effects that it may or may not have on him in that fight. Now, Tsarukyan says it doesn't matter if Khabib is in Islam's corner or not, and he's going in there to beat Islam Makhachev.
Как ты думаешь, есть такой момент все-таки, который, ну, о котором многие говорят, какой-то вот даже Хабиб в углу, даже Хабиб рядом оказывает какое-то психологическое воздействие на оппонентов того же Ислама, того же Усмана, Умара?
Я не знаю, на некоторых по-любому кто-то переживает, там Хабиб в углу, он там все знает, будет подсказывать и так далее. А для меня наоборот это мотивация. Я, допустим, первый мой дебют, я вышел в клетку, меня никто не знал, а Ислам, у него в углу был Абдулманап, Хавьер, это два самых известных и два самых крутых тренеров, да, в мире. И я вышел, и наоборот, у меня была мотивация еще сильнее показать им, что я пришел сюда выигрывать.
So obviously Arman Tsarukyan is very confident for that fight, and you know, if you have seen the first fight between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan, you know how competitive that fight actually was, and Tsarukyan actually came in on very short notice to fight Islam Makhachev in that fight. It was Arman Tsarukyan's debut, and he still put on a very good performance. Arguably, some people believe he actually won that fight. In my opinion, I think Arman Tsarukyan is the most dangerous fighter in the lightweight division besides Islam Makhachev, and he's the only fighter as of today in the lightweight division who can actually beat Islam Makhachev. So I believe Tsarukyan has the potential to beat Islam Makhachev. If Makhachev doesn't retire, he's going to have to lose at some point, and I think Arman Tsarukyan definitely has the ability to beat Islam Makhachev, but we will see on January 18th. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.